All right, so we're here for another episode of the Throw Show. So we're here. Sam's like, what did I get myself into? So I'm here with Trevor Stutzman and Sam Mattis, and Sam is our first guest athlete, I guess.
Am I?
Yeah.
Wow, it's an honor.
I don't know about that, but anyway, Sam's on the podcast. So the goal for tonight is that we want to just go over sort of where Sam's career has gone from college to training with Garage Strength, and then ask Sam a whole bunch of questions regarding throwing, and then our speed round of questions at the end of the podcast. So,
all right.
How does that sound?
Perfect.
Okay. So
it sounds okay.
what I always like to share about with Sam. Well, first of all, I don't know if anybody knows this. You guys probably know this. Sam and I share birthdays.
We do.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So he and I have the same birthday.
Once a decade, a darkness descends upon the land.
You only share a birthday every decade?
Yeah. Correct. There's one person born on March 19th once every 10 years.
Yeah. So
Got it.
what I always find this interesting. I love telling this story. Is that the first time I ever talked to Sam's dad, so I had done this scathing technical analysis of him. I don't even remember. I think it was like 2015.
Yeah, I think so.
Like Jake Brenza had sent it to me. And I did this technical analysis, and a lot of people were just pissed off about it. And I didn't even know Sam at the time.
Yeah, but we sent you the video.
Yeah,
We wanted that.
Yeah. And what I thought was cool was like how you just didn't really care at all. You know, you didn't care. But a lot of people got upset about it. And then your dad ended up calling me, I think because he was just slightly concerned that people were
You
pissed at
besmirched my good name.
Well said. So your dad calls me, and he and I have this like 2.5 hour conversation. He runs me through basically this whole process of how you became a thrower, and he was explaining to me how you used to like throw sticks over a fence or something.
That sounds like some garbage my dad made up.
So
maybe that doesn't sound real though.
So he goes through this whole process, and then somehow, like almost immediately, he knew that you and I had the same birthday. I don't know how this happened. And I think you threw that 67-meter throw on your birthday. Yeah. So he ends up correlating this that you and I were connected in some like metaphysical manner. And he's like, I believe that you and Sam are connected metaphysically. So we have this long discussion, and that like commenced our relationship. And then the first day Sam came up to train with me, he farted like 15 times in the circle because he was hungover.
I was so hungover.
And
I had mostly McDonald's.
Yeah, it was like Wendy's or McDonald's. And I'm like sitting there coaching him. I'm like a pig. I'm like, I'm like, this guy stinks. He just smells like shit.
This is the first topic of conversation.
So anyway, yeah. No, but to me, it was this.
You're gonna get a stern phone call from my dad after this.
I don't know. I just thought I thought it was quite fitting because I am a pig, and you guys came to the barn, and I actually think it was Jake, Noah, and you. I think that were with you guys the first time, and it was, the first. I want to say 3 or 4 months was we would see each other like once every 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, about that.
That was your senior year at Penn, and I would come down sometimes to Penn just to watch. And I think what was cool was that was like this period for me too, where I was sitting there like I'm getting to work with him because he is a stud. But it was cool because I was trying to figure you out, like, and I will say that he's been the hardest athlete for me to like fully get a lockdown on. From your personality and like just response to cues and stuff like that. And I just think just because.
Tell me what to do. I'll do it.
But
that's pretty simple.
That's what I think took me so long is that I would sit there and I would tell you all these cues and I was like, does he like maybe I'm giving and what ended up being is that I thought you know initially and this is getting a little bit off track is initially I wanted to give you all these different cues because I thought like that's what you would respond to, and then I think I took this step back and I'm like, just because he went to Penn and in my mind
Doesn't
he's like
mean anything.
Doesn't mean he's
well, no, in my mind I'm sitting there like he can handle 600 different cues that I throw at him and I'm like, dude, this is stupid. I just need to keep this as easy as I can. And that's the biggest thing that I've learned about you is that, you know, when you're training, I don't know outside of when you're talking too much.
When would I ever do that besides the last year?
I don't know anyone really that really does train as hard as you do. I hate to give you this compliment. Who like will absolutely go all out on every single rep, and then even with technique, you get it. You get like technical throws, you get the hard throws, and I think that's the one important part I want to factor in is that you've thrown 67 meters. Last year you had I think 2 or 3 meets over 66, really good year, and you still comprehend that there's always technical changes that can occur, and there's always technical adaptations that are occurring. And I think that what's cool now is looking back at your technique when we first started, but compared to now, and I think that just shows like the amount of work and cerebral activity that has gone into where you're currently at. So I do have to give you props on that, Sam.
Wow, if you guys want to turn this into like an hour-long compliment fest, please go for it. It's been a while.
Yeah, so I did.
Well, that also made me think of too when you're saying like that initially trying to just like give a ton of cues at once, like at first it seems like, oh, that's what intelligent people
could
trying
handle.
lots of all these different types of things, but there's also a lot of people who are always fishing for different types of stuff.
Yeah.
And like what they really need is just to work on like one or two things just consistently for a very long time.
And I think that's exactly.
And
how
it takes
you
a
do
very mentally like driven and like focused person to be able to do that, and not like just being wishy-washy going from one thing to another all the time.
Yeah.
And I think that's makes a big
I
difference.
think kind of like so like I get asked sometimes like what's the secret, like your training, or like Dane, like how does he have all these people who are so good? And like it's really simple.
Yeah.
We've had the same 3 cues for like over a year.
Right.
And now they're actually getting good because that's all we've been doing.
Yeah.
And like in the weight room too, it's very simple.
Yeah.
Like there's no secret.
I think that's part of that was part of my thing too, is that I was good at coaching when we first started to work together, but I wasn't really that good yet. Like I was good, but I was also figuring out my approach to all of the technical things that I'm doing in weightlifting and in throwing. And I think where I benefited so much from that beginning part, maybe like, and even when you moved here, then the first like 3 to 4 months that you moved it was like trying to see then, like I sort of took a step back and I'm like, okay, like now he's here, now we're on site, and I can give him feedback and sort of explain things a little bit clearer. Mm-hmm. And it was sort of like, okay, what cues is he going to pick up faster than, what cues is he not going to pick up, right? So it's sort of like then I got through this 2 or 3 or 4 month period where it was like, okay, if I throw this thing at him, how's he going to respond? And I think that was the biggest thing, is that, it took a little bit of time, but then you are good at giving feedback, and you're also good at giving like how you're feeling and stuff like that. And even today you're like, wow, I feel so open at the front, and you can explain it very, very simply, whereas so many people get so lost in all these details and it's like they
dive too deep into the nuance.
Yeah.
I think, and like at the end of the day, it is a complicated movement, but there are just a few things that you need to do well.
Yeah,
and if you do those well,
basic
most
principles,
things will fall into place.
Right.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to share that it was. I still remember though, like him lifting, like the first couple of times. Him
Oh my
lifting.
God.
And be like, what the hell is he doing?
Zero technique.
I mean, I was thinking that even today when he was
disgusting.
power snatching. I'm like, what the heck is he doing?
What are you talking about? I power snatched really well today.
Yeah, they weren't bad. No, so I just think it's been really fun, and it's been, not that it's ending, I will say. So Sam is moving
Indeed.
in the next two
Probably
or a month
or two.
Yeah. I'm still gonna try my hardest to prevent this from happening. But what I do, so when Sam did tell me he's moving to back to Jersey, my first gut reaction was I wanted to choke slam him.
That's your gut reaction to about half the things I tell you.
But then my
I could
reaction,
tell you what my lunch was, and you're like, I'm gonna kill that kid.
But then I sat there and I'm like, you know what, this isn't that bad, because knowing you, and you have traveled quite a bit this past year, and even when you did travel, I felt like you communicated better than I did, for the most part. So I sat there and I'm like, you can, I know your work ethic, and I know what you do in the circle, and I know how you think, and I know, and even when we did first start working together, it was successful when we first started working together, and that was when we barely even knew each other.
Right.
And that was one thing that I sat back and I'm like, you know what? He's moving. Is it that bad? Like, no, because one, he's way more. I mean, I say this very loosely. He's way more.
I am very mature. I
He's
don't
way-
know what
you
you're
knew
talking
exactly
about. What? Come on. If you exclude the last 5 days of my life, I'm a very mature person.
And then the 5 days before that.
No. Those 5 days were fine. The 2 days before that were questionable. But besides that.
But from my side, I was like, he's way more mature than he was when we first started working together. Way more mature as far as knowing technique and understanding technique, and even understanding, like, I feel like even today, like, you might have tried to smash like 3 or 4 throws, but most of them were all technical throws because you're trying to get a feeling. But if you have the feeling, then like, okay, I'm going to open it up and I'm going to try and smash them. And I think that's something where I sort of took a step back from my ego, and I was like, you know what? You explained why. There's bigger things out there than Reading, Pennsylvania, and there's things that you can do, that you need to do, that I agree with you, and I think you do need to challenge yourself in other ways, and I mean, I don't want you to, but I also have to admit you probably should. And I think that once I sat back and sort of analyzed where you and I were, like, the technique and the training that we do, you have a good understanding for it. So that's where I was sort of like, you know what, Alex is successful, and he's got a job where he's driving all over the place. And I sat there, I'm like, you know what, Sam's, if there's one athlete I have that can handle training remotely and still succeed and still kill it, it's you. And I think on top of that, we're still not even that far away, so it is going to be one of those things where we'll be close enough to see each other pretty regularly.
Also, I feel like the big reason why I think the move will be fine, and like I wouldn't do it otherwise, I feel like we could not say each other, let me restart that sentence. I feel like we could not talk to each other for the next year, and I'd still be doing all the training that you'd want me to be doing. Because like at this point, we know what we want and have been chasing the same things for the last few years, and are just like totally on the same page.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's, as weird as that is, I will say that's where maybe Marlon's correct with the metaphysical connection.
True. Welcome to the hive mind.
I will say this. So one of the best moments of my coaching career was when 6632 popped up on the board, and I was like, I just wanted, I was leaning on a fence or whatever was in front of me, I don't even remember, and I just wanted to rip it out and be like,
no, you did say that though. And people were upset that you people were upset that you got so excited. And then
I forgot.
We kind of blew our load a little too early.
So okay. I probably didn't really do a good job sort of describing the first 2 years of Sam being here, but whatever. we can go into.
Well, I think that pretty much
sums it up. I remember. You know what else I remember? One thing that sticks out, and this is going to be a little bit of a sore subject, is that Trevor was texting me at when he was at NCAA's your senior year.
Why would that be a sore subject? I had so much fun that week.
and he was like just giving me updates through the competition.
Oh no, what did I say?
and you were just saying like what was happening, you know, being logical, and then it was Sam lost. I'm pretty sure he just dented the bleacher or something.
I did. Yeah.
And then it was like
I strictly remember seeing that as like he just absolutely just wailed on that bleacher
so like
and left a dent.
And then I think
which is impressive. I was very impressed by that.
And I think he also mentioned that you were bleeding.
Yeah, so
pretty sure
when
you put
I
that
was
in
getting taken to the podium, they didn't think I was going to the podium. They thought I was going to the medical tent because there was so much blood coming down my hand. I
swear
stared at them.
I swear I remember Trevor being like, Sam lost. He just dented the bleacher, and now he's bleeding everywhere. And I was like, oh, shit.
You're like, what did I get myself into?
Yeah. No, then I was like, yeah, that's what I want to get into. Somebody who reacts
that
like
reminds me of myself.
Oh, that's not good.
No,
There
you're not.
aren't enough tape measures in the world for that.
So if we could go into then, we got a whole bunch of questions on the AMA. Do we have a lot of questions right now? Okay, we could go into some of those questions because I think it could be cool just for everybody to hear your take on your approach to training, on your approach to competition. You know, it's sad. I wish people could see even like some of the coolest stuff that I've been in that I feel like people would like that we could share is like even your prep for USAs and like, you know, we get this Airbnb that's an hour away out in the middle of nowhere, and we find a random high school, and like we're warming up that morning, and it's just but we can get into that a little bit later. So let's go over some of the questions, and then maybe we can address some of that stuff.
So this is from Nicholas Arrhenius.
Oh, what's up,
I
noob?
know that guy.
Are his arms too massive for a discus thrower?
I think
man, I don't know.
that was one thing I wanted to point out was that when Sam sat down, I'm like, dude, he's so freaking big. But people have said this to me about him, and this is on a serious note, have said about him being like bulky. But I think, and even just staying in contact with John on a pretty regular basis, is that Sam is a massive person. But one thing that I think, and I can see, is even your mobility is very good. And on top of that, even talking with John, like some of your rotation has improved over the last year to year and a half.
Yeah.
So,
I think I've only gotten more flexible since I like came up here and started I mean, like the first month or two, I was dying.
right.
But now I stretch like 30 minutes a night, like minimum.
Yeah.
And go to John once a week, and just kind of do another 30 minutes to an hour of recovery work a day.
Right.
Because like if I don't, I'm gonna break.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is from Evan Johnson. What was the biggest factor for considering your college? So for considering UPenn, this guy, he's currently choosing between Oklahoma and OSU, which I think is Oklahoma State.
Yeah. Honestly, just the fit, kind of, as corny as that sounds. I obviously was passionate about track coming out of high school, but I didn't think I'd end up being a professional track and field athlete. Like, if you told me that at the time, I'd be like, that's stupid. Why would I do that? And, like, I still think that. I took my official to Penn, and I loved the people there. At the time, I liked the program that I thought I was going to go into academically. It's got really cool history with the track team. Philly's an awesome city, so it just fit.
Okay. This is from Cole Tucker. He comments on a lot of our YouTube posts on garage strength. So, Jersey has the best throwers. Don't at me, bro.
Fact. Okay.
Wrong.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what do you have to say about that, Dane?
It's got to be Pennsylvania.
How?
I always just say Darrell, Whiting, Kovacs.
Okay, so like PA ends up developing better throwers, maybe,
Yeah.
or like better throwers develop out of PA.
Yeah.
But I think on a high school level,
High
it's hard
school.
to beat
Jordan
Jersey.
guys.
Jordan
Jordan
Geis.
Geis,
Yeah.
Okay, but we've got someone throwing 70 almost every single
Yeah, that
year.
is true. That is
And
true.
like usually a discus throw over 200, usually a jab guy over 220, 230.
Pennsylvania's good jab throwers. There's no javelin in New Jersey, I thought.
Yeah, no, they got
Yes.
those rubber tip things.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I'm going to say his name. Cody JE65. Biggest, most helpful technical cue you've used?
Ooh, that's a good one. I would say staying patient out of the back, because that helps set up the rest of the throw and just kind of allows you to think a little bit more while you're in the circle instead of kind of rushing and trying to kill everything.
I want to piggyback on that one. I think one of the hardest things to break with him was
just going 100% of the 100%
well, yeah,
way
like,
too often.
like going all out right away, and people will still hound me and say like, "Don't you think Sam's too fast out of the back or too aggressive?" But if you watch, you are more patient with the left side out of the back, and I think that has led to you not having such a high left leg now and a more rotational left leg, which sets you up better for a longer grounded
and I
pace
think
from.
that was kind of the key to the consistency this year that I haven't had any other year.
Yeah.
Because like other years I'd throw 57 one meet and then like 60 something the next, but I've been pretty consistent over 63, 64.
Yeah.
And I think that's why.
Yeah.
Oh, we got a few more rolling in. Who was your high school coach?
My dad. Yeah. And also he helped a bunch in college. And he's just always been really enthusiastic. He's like, he didn't start out as the most knowledgeable coach, but he always went to seek out whoever had the knowledge and would try to apply that as best as he could.
This question. Did you know you threw at the school where the guy shit on the track?
Oh, Homedale. Yeah. Yeah, the
Homedale.
principal? That guy? I'm pretty sure. Yeah, so there was
principal?
Yeah, that's next to where Kate
Oh my
was
God,
from.
what was his nickname? It was crazy. Oh, I wish I could.
Homedale Hornets.
Yeah. But anyway, I'm pretty sure it was a superintendent of a different school district.
Oh, this was just recently.
Would go to like Homedale
Yes.
or whatever rival track and like crap on their track every morning. And they caught him at like 5 a.m. one day because they're like, what kid is doing this? Not a kid, superintendent.
Yeah. Yeah, this is like within the last like 6 months.
Yeah.
I swear.
Yeah, this was definitely this
That's
year.
ridiculous.
Any tips to get more explosive?
Oh, I know. His nickname was the Pooper Intendant.
That's great.
Anyway, back to the serious questions at hand.
That broke me. Any tips to get more explosive when throwing?
I mean, I would say Dane's probably got the answer to that, but pretty much like snatch and lift fast, throw fast occasionally.
Yeah, I think that's one for you.
Yeah, I think lift. No. Snatch, I think, is the best that you can do as far as becoming more explosive. You know, Sam just jerked 220 kilos, so it's 485 pounds. I think learning how to move that kind of weight at that, that speed and under that kind of control is really, really important. Because if you look at that, if you look at his 220, and sometimes if his technique in the jerk is a little bit off, you can't really see this, but his 220 jerk was one of his best technical jerks I've seen him hit. And if you look at that position that he hits in the jerk, in the split, it's almost identical to that same position he's going to hit at the front of the circle. And that's just him learning how to control the speed and to be stable in that same position. And that's why it can transfer over really well. So I think that's
I also
important.
think like doing Olympic lifts, not just to move stuff, but actually technically minded, has helped a ton too.
Yeah.
Because you have to stay mentally focused, like in the circle and in the weight room.
Right.
And then knowing how to move for different movements is just going to help you learn how your body works.
I'm so
elsewhere.
glad Sam said that. That makes me feel so bad, so much better.
So bad?
So much better. I was gonna say so better, and then I realized what I was saying.
So, 2 more questions. Do you ever throw shot or just focus on disc?
Just disc. I threw shot in college and high school and was atrocious at it. So gave that up the second I could.
from Cyro.
Oh God.
What's your favorite TV show, and do you play Fortnite?
Fortnite, no. I have a life. And Josh. And favorite TV show. That's a good one. Favorite serious TV show? Probably Atlanta. Favorite joke of a TV show? Probably Always Sunny. With honorable mentions to Rick and Morty.
That's as far as we got on Instagram. I don't think we have anything on Facebook.
So, Trevor, what questions from the AMA?
Yeah.
You have like 2 or 3.
So there's one on choosing what to do post-collegiately. Mm-hmm. So I thought that'd be like, we haven't really talked about from your perspective, like, what do you think about when you're looking for some place to go after?
Yeah, so that was actually kind of a mess for me because I thought I'd be in Chula Vista, and then that started falling through a little bit because of some changes that they were making around there. But I think it comes down to just prioritizing your life and like what you think is going to make you successful, because after you graduate you have a ton of different obligations, and your life's going to get like tugged in a bunch of different directions. And just like, I think Dane is the best coach in America, but even if he wasn't, I still think I'd be here, just because this was the environment that I think I needed, like right out of college for a year or two. And I think that like you just need to figure out what's more important to you. So I wanted somewhere where I could have a little bit of financial freedom, even though I'm going to be making almost no money. With a coach I definitely click with, some people that I like, not too far from home, or like job opportunities. And that's what it came down to for me.
Yeah.
I think that's really good, yeah. I think it's good, especially the part about me being the best coach in the U.S. I think to piggyback off of him, just because I've had a lot of people directly, asking me that same question, and I think what's cool about, and I don't like to do this with Sam, but giving him, like, you have challenged me to try and make that post-collegiate transition easier. Because really, he was like he and Rachel were like the first ones that I really, really worked with on site. And I think when I first started doing it, my goal was to offer as much support as possible. But at the time, that support, be it financial or whatever it could be, even just trying to guide you.
Home and find a place to live was huge.
Right, yeah. And that's the thing, is that like, I've sort of sat there and I said, how can I make that as easy as possible? And what's cool is that even now that Sam's leaving, like, I want to sit here and I'm sitting there, like, I'd say this shit to Caitlin and she's like, dude, you just got to get over Sam leaving. But I'm like trying to figure out a way to be like, what can I do to get Sam to stay here? And she's like, it's probably not going to happen. But still, at the same time, like, I'm sitting there like, okay, if this happens again, like, or if my favorite collegiate shot putter would move here currently, I want to have something in place, either that he has a more stimulating job, or he has something that he can, that's outside the gym. Because I do think that ends up being, I think that the gym, because it is so hard, it is such a grinding place here. I think if you can have that outside, that a little, it doesn't have to be a lot, but 20 hour job somewhere that is more mentally stimulating. I think that could go a long way. And I think
like
that
being close to New York City or Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Like, that would be cool too.
Dane's never leaves me.
Oh, I know. No, he's born here. He's gonna die here. We all know that.
My friends always say. Wait, let me say this. My friends always say Dane drives on 2 roads, 61 and 222.
Yep. 2 of the worst roads I've ever been on.
Well, one thing I was going to ask you is, like, what do you think are the advantages of someone moving? So obviously Sam has moved here. He's trained here for 2 years, over 2 years, and now he's going away. Right. What would you say is the advantage of moving to garage strength to to train.
I think for him,
rather than doing like online, just
yeah,
online
yeah,
training.
yeah. I think for him, and this was part of This was part of what did help me put everything in perspective when he said he was going to move. Was that he even pointed out, he's like, look, I've come there, I've learned how to train, I've learned how to be a professional athlete.
Yeah.
And he was like, I've learned what the system is. He knows the system very well. He knows the effort that's expected, and he knows the technique that's expected, and he knows the technical cues as well. And I think that those 2 years, and he even said to me, he's like, I wouldn't do this if I wasn't already here. Having those 2 years on site, and like, I mean, I guess it's going to be maybe a little bit more than 2 years, but it's like it's laid that foundation work that I think was necessary for him. I remember even your dad saying, like, coming into a place where we were burning firewood and coal, it's a hard place.
Oh my God, yeah.
I
forgot about that sometimes.
And we're throwing into the snow and like doing stuff like that. And it's like, it's not easy. And I think that sort of created him into this, no bullshit. It doesn't matter if it's wet in the circle. Like, we'll figure something out. You still threw it like that. One of the meets in Norway, I think it was raining and cold, and you still threw like 62 meters there. It's like that.
I think it was only 61.
Okay, but maybe
it
65.
was pouring though. Yeah,
but I think that's the biggest factor of being on site for at least a year or two, is that he learned the system, he learned the technical cues, he learned the feedback that I give as well, and I think that's what some of the things that sucks with Alex is that Alex will come work on site. And he'll be like, dude, I wish I had this all the time. Like, I feel so much better after I work with you, and I get that feedback. Whereas with Sam, I don't think it's going to be that way. I think it's going to be like he knows that the technical process it takes a while, and it might be he and I see each other 2 to 4 times a month, but we're still going to be working on those same goals every single time that we see each other. And it's like, I think that was huge, is that those 2 years really laid good groundwork for where he can make that the next transition,
Yeah, and like I think coming out of college, I didn't really have much of a direction with throwing, with lifting, with how to mentally prepare for meets and just training and recovery and everything. And now I think we've got like a very good course that's set.
Yeah,
and it's going to take like minimal corrections to like keep me along that path.
Yeah, I agree.
But I do think it took those 2 years to get to this point.
Right. I think that sort of leads into the USA's stuff, is that I think one of the coolest things that I experienced as a coach was just seeing you, from USA's in Sacramento to USA's last year.
Best meet of my life.
Was just, your meet prep was so much better, just in regards, and I think even from my perspective, it was better, where it was like, okay, Sam, what are we going to focus on? We're going to focus on these 2 cues. And if this happens and you're grooving everything, we probably won't even focus on a cue. Like if you hit something in the first 1 or 2 throws, if you put out something big, then we might just go for broke and try and see if you can smack something and cut those cues off. See where we're at around 4 or 5. Maybe in the 5th round or the 6th round, he needs one more cue to spark something big, coming back. And what was cool too is that Sam knew I was going to be going back and forth between women's shot to Coach Mo and to Coach Rachel, and then coming back to discus to coach him, and if Cyro had made the finals. And so that morning, he and I and Josh had gone we found this high school like 10 miles away, and we're out in the middle of Iowa. There's literally nothing but cornfields around. We talked to like a groundskeeper randomly.
Yeah,
like, the discus circle is way over there. The grass was like this high. But for me as a coach, that was one of, looking back, and at the time I didn't take it in, but looking back on it, it was like, wow, this is a very important session. And you had warmed up, you took a couple stands, I think. You might even went right into fulls.
I took a stand.
Yeah, like maybe 1 stand.
Throws.
Yeah, and it was like, he took 3 throws. Josh only took like 3 or 4 throws, and it was just this prep, like, and he was competing that afternoon. And I remember, like, your second or third throw it was like money, and I was like, dude, he's like in that. He knew, just from the night before we had discussed the cues, we had discussed how it was going to go going back and forth between men's disc and the women's shot, and that preparation and knowing what to expect, so that when you were in the meet, everything was already set up. Everything, all he had to do was execute, and that's what he did. Mm-hmm. And I think that seeing that and knowing that that's how everything was laid out was, it's cool to see him make that progress as an athlete, because I think that that's something that, going into 2019 and then 2020, we're going to have that same relationship where it's like, when we get to these meets, this is what we're going to focus on,
and then actually being able to do it.
Yeah, and then this is what we're going to worry about, and then that's it. And everybody else has to worry about you. You don't have to worry about anybody else, except for Mason Finley and Reggie.
Yeah,
but
we don't like to talk about them.
But I think I just think it was. I just, when I think back to that meet, it was. I think that could potentially be a meet in his career and Rachel's career that just takes them and they just skyrocket and blow up from that. Because if you look at even what he did after that, going over to Europe and traveling all over Europe and throwing consistently over there, he's hurt. He's gonna make that next step to the big time level of where he knows he can be at, and where I know he can be at, and where his dad knows he can be at, So.
Yep.
What was your mental approach, or just approach in general?
Going into nationals?
To USA's.
It's basically exactly what Dane said. Like, we had 2 cues, I think, that we were focusing on, and that's all I thought about first throw. I was like, just that, nothing else. Yeah. Okay. And then did it. Yeah. That was it. I mean, I mean, there's a lot more that went into it. The 2 years of training before,
exactly,
and like a bunch of meditation, and like cold showers and breathing exercises and stuff, and just learning how to clear my mind.
We're gonna have like a million texts on cold showers now.
But at the end of the day, it's just you have a job, and we've been working on these 2 things for a year, more than that, and now's the time to actually go out and do them.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing too. Like, as coaches, is that we're constantly trying to give 17 different cues, and it's like, why don't we give 1 or 2 and just beat that into them, or and then move to the next 1 or 2, and then move to the next 1 or 2, and everything sort of periodized, so that when you're peaking, you got 1 or 2 things, and then that's it. And that's I remember thinking like, okay, if he goes, and I had it in my head, if he goes 65 plus in the first 2 or 3 rounds, I'm gonna say like minimal things to him. And it was like, I think in like the 4th, when I came back from the women's shot, I think you were going into your 4th round, because somebody had texted me a video. I think I missed your 3rd round. I missed one of your throws, and I basically just saw it, and I was like, get off the left a little bit quicker, or like open the left a little bit earlier. I forget exactly what it was, but I remember I said one thing to you. You went back, threw like 65 again. I was like, okay, he's in that position where he can just hammer something.
Yeah, just got unlucky and didn't have a giant throw.
Yeah.
Just had 4 really good throws.
Yeah, but the giant throw will be there when it matters.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's go to the speed round,
speed round.
I think a lot of people would be interested in it. Also, there's an AMA question it was actually about your PR progression, but I think people are more
interested about my PR.
He's the best 17-meter shot putter there ever was.
I'm the Reese Hoffman 17.
But why don't you go through real quick, and then we'll get to the questions.
Okay, sure.
Your PRs from high school up.
So I'll start in 8th grade. First throw, huge 77 feet. I think from a stand. Then the next meet, 87 feet. But by the time I was done with 8th grade, because those were like my first few throws ever. By the time I was done with 8th grade and like had actually started practicing a little bit, not really seriously, but my dad was a thrower back in the day and gave me some guidance. I think I finished with 132 or 137, and then I think I won our county, and I was like, that was pretty cool. Like, that felt good. Nice. So I'm gonna actually like train now and take this seriously. So I started training, still obviously like nowhere at the level or consistency that would develop later. But freshman year I threw 169. which was like kind of a breakthrough, but like super inconsistent. I was basically super consistent until last year. And then sophomore year, 197, which was like a pretty big jump. And then that gets to the point where like you can't just rely on a growth spurt and getting stronger. You need to actually develop your technique. So it kind of slowed down a little. So I think I went 207 junior year and 218 my senior year. And then college, 57 meters freshman year, 62 sophomore year. And then junior year was probably kind of like this past year where I got consistent at a pretty decent distance for me, which was like 61, 62, but only had like a really small PR. Like I think I PR'd by like 0.4 meters, but my average moved up by like 2 or 3. Senior year was my current PR, 67. And then 2 years ago, so 2017, super inconsistent, best throw was 65. And then this year threw 66 like 4 times, and with an average of like 64 or so. But I think consistency is the most important thing, and my like average has moved up each year.
Yeah. Sweet.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go. Let me. What are you?
Do you want to answer any more?
We'll go one more. I want one or two more.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So, again from Cyro. Well, if he's,
Are they all from him?
Hi, Josh.
how'd you know? What made the difference between your first year with Dane and your second year success?
I mean, I think it's something that we've said a bunch tonight. It's just consistency. So, like, a year of training here is good, but 2 years was great because you just learn more about the system, more of what's expected. You keep doing the same thing over and over, like 10,000 times, and you're bound to get better at it. So, it's just consistency.
Is there any other good ones?
That must be it.
I want to preface this speed round. So I always love doing this with Trevor because I just think it's hilarious. But I wanted to point out that one of the best parts of training Sam is that he and I will frequently argue about politics. I feel like we don't really argue about politics.
No, we usually agree, but you just yell.
Damn it. I would say we agree on like 99% of these things, but I just yell at you anyway. And even going into like social norms and stuff like that. So it's always very entertaining that any discussion we have, or even if driving to Grand Valley, it's like we can sit there and discuss world politics
And yell at Noah.
and have a really good conversation. So some of these questions are going to be a little, not all throwing related. So I just wanted to put that in there. Okay. Podcast or radio?
Podcast.
Okay.
But Radio Lab. That's the podcast.
podcast.
It's called
Okay.
Radio Lab.
Okay.
It's on NPR, which is radio, but it's a podcast.
Harding or Alekna?
I don't know. Harding's got some swag, but Alekna's got staying power. I'm gonna go Alekna.
Oh. I'm gonna cross this out. Olympic title. You get an Olympic title in one event that isn't the discus. What is that event?
Okay. Does it have to be an individual event?
No.
Basketball then, because that means I'm an NBA player and I'm fucking
Make him good
rich.
money.
That's what it comes down to.
Tacos or pizza?
God, that's a really tough one. Pizza's really versatile. I'm gonna go pizza.
Spain prior to Franco, or the Soviet Union prior to Stalin?
I'm gonna go Soviet Union prior to Stalin. See what happens if Trotsky takes over, doesn't get stabbed by an ice pick in Mexico, and like maybe cannot be a authoritarian maniac and lead to the death of like a fifth of the cohort of 1924 in Russia. But tomato. Wine
or beer?
Beer.
Here's the question. Okay, so I got 2 more questions. This is
a lot of beer.
This is me challenging Sam's knowledge of history. Okay.
Oh shit.
What
Can
is
I phone a friend?
No. What is the second oldest republic in the Western Hemisphere?
Second oldest continuously functioning republic. Because you could make an argument that like France after the U.S., but
No,
they
not-
fell
no, no.
back.
France
into,
is not in there. It's a country in like geographically located. In there.
Second oldest republic. I'm gonna take a wild guess and say Mexico.
Haiti.
Oh yeah. Okay. Oh, I should know that. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, last one, and this is the one I'm very interested in. Do you have any meat superstitions? Like,
Oh no. No,
okay,
not
that was
at
the
all.
one where I was
Yeah.
like, I know Sam thinks so logically, but does he put his socks on the same way every time?
No, I mean I have a routine, but I don't think that's superstition. I think it's because routine helps take out any noise.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
like
yeah.
you're just doing the same. It's less thinking.
Yeah.
So like I'll wake up X hours, usually 5 or 6 hours before the meet. I'll stretch. I'll go take some practice throws. I'll come back. I'll meditate. I'll take a cold shower. I'll stretch. I'll do some breathing. Go to the meet. Warm up, or do some breathing. Warm up, and then.
Then you're good.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes
Sounds
sense.
like you have it pretty down pat.
Yeah.
So you don't have a rabbit foot in your shoe.
No, I have several, but that's unrelated.
All right, Sam. Thanks for being on the Throw Show.
Yeah, thank you.